I think time is different. It's going deep into a situation, a challenge, a potential idea or company that you want to put together. And I think we're so lacking that right now. When you think about, the stories I heard about Henry Ford, he used to spend time, what they call daydreaming, all the time. And he said that was the best time of his workday because that's where he actually came up with the brilliant ideas. So we need, as leaders, we need to continue to make room for the brilliant ideas. And if we're just working all the time and engaged in social media and all these screens and all that kind of stuff, it's stealing that away from us. And as Americans, we really have to get our act, I almost cussed. We have to get our act together, and get back to number one of being the best at coming up with ideas and solving problems.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I'm excited because I have a guest today who is going to take us on a leadership journey about women on boards and her experience of growing businesses, writing books, and also something unbelievably cool, rowing on a Concept 2 rowing machine for 24 hours. Her name is Michele Ashby. Michele, are you ready for kickoff?
Yes, let's go.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. So team, this is what I know about Michele. Michele Ashby is on a mission to train 1,000 women to take their place on corporate boards. She's the founder and CEO of ACE LLC, Ashby Consulting Enterprises LLC, and has 30 years of experience as a gold specialist, analyst, financial expert, independent corporate director, and successful entrepreneur. She was named one of the top 25 most powerful women in Colorado. And like I said at the beginning, she's the author of 3 books. She's also a former ultra athlete. And she is the first woman in North America to row 24 hours on a Concept 2 rowing machine for a total of 211,036 meters in 24 hours. That to me is mind-blowing, Michele, along with everything else that you do. Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast.
Thank you, Mary Lou. I love how you have your show and all the sports things that are going along. It's so exciting. It's so unusual. So I'm ready to jump in. Throw me the ball.
Yeah, you're getting it. It's coming to you because it is game day and you are today's starting quarterback. So without hesitation, would you please tell listeners more about when you got the call to leadership, Michele? What was that? Do you have a moment when you knew you were going to be on a leadership path, or was it something that evolved over time? Tell us your story.
Well, I think I've had a number of them, but the one that pops in my mind, and since we're talking sports, I'm going to share this one. So I was playing golf. I was at an mining industry golf tournament. My phone rang. I answered the phone. It was the chairman of a mining company. He said, "Hey, Michele, I just wanted to let you know I just bought controlling interest of a public company and was interested in having you on my board. Would you like to join?" Yeah. How about that one?
That's pretty neat. And so you said yes?
Of course I said yes.
And then what was that like being a board member on for a mining company, which is traditionally a very male-dominated industry?
Well, my whole career as an analyst, I was covering the mining industry. So I actually had really good relationships with hundreds of CEOs of mining companies. I also started and ran a trade association for the gold mining industry in 1988, and I was there 18 years. So this was at the end of that 18-year period. So these guys saw me on stage either in the US or in Europe at our institutional investor conferences twice a year. And I would have individual meetings with them. And so I was pretty visible.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a key word for leadership is visibility. And I know from working with women myself over the years, it's something that a lot of women struggle with. When you look around, Michele, based on the work you're doing now with a mission to help 1,000 women get on corporate boards, what do you see women struggling with when it comes to stepping up into leadership roles?
So one thing is, we know in research that if you have a man and a woman who have equal experience and background who are offered a promotion, the man is more likely to raise his hand and say, pick me, I'll give it a go if he only has 60% of what he needs. Woman is more likely to say, oops, I have another 40% I think I need to fill. I don't have enough, or I don't feel worthy, whatever those little voices are in their heads. And what I encourage women to do is to raise their hand and say, pick me, I can do it better than anyone. And then go figure it out. That's what guys do. They say, yeah, pick me. And then they go figure it out. They get in touch with their buddies. They do their research. They go do their, homework, whatever it is. And then, they don't know it all either. We assume that people that get promotions or take these roles already have the experience. They don't. We all have to learn somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. We certainly do, which is a great segue into my next question about who has helped you, guided you, coached you to be the exceptional leader that you are today? And if you could talk about the coaching / mentoring relationships you've had, and the specifics of what made it so great, that helps listeners who may be new to thinking about working with a coach or, seeking some kind of guidance. Take us into that granular space of what makes that relationship work.
Right. So actually, there were many. I was very fortunate that there were many good male mentors, and my mentors were all male throughout my career. So for 30 years. And it started in the finance side when I was a broker, and my boss at the time was really, he thought it was important for us to understand the markets and what we were doing. So we'd have weekly meetings, and I was the one who would say, "Could I borrow the book, or can I spend another hour with you and ask questions?" So be curious, and if something interests you, go deep into it, but don't go deep just by yourself. Let other people know, and they'll find you. Like they see that you got what it takes, and it doesn't matter gender, because they're going to mentor a guy that acts the way I did too, by the way. The next thing is, once I got into specializing in the gold industry, and that's another story of why I specialize there. But there was a gentleman, here's how it happened, really. The clients that had gold stocks wanted to know more about the companies they'd invested in. So as their broker, I said, I'll call the company. So I started calling around, not knowing anything about mining or gold, and asking the CEOs the questions that the clients had. And then I'd call the client back and say, well, I talked to President XYZ, and here's what he said about that project, and blah, blah, blah. And through that process, some things happened. I was introduced to the presidents and CEOs of mining companies, who were very interested in getting calls from investors. And I was also building, rapport with my clients, because I was the only broker that would actually take that extra step and do that for them. And they were educating me. So I was getting something from them. Gold bugs, gold investors are different investors. And they are, to me, they're like economists. They know everything about what's going on, not just with the stock, but the markets and the currencies and the, politics and all kinds of things. So that really sucked me in, and I became a gold bug myself. So one of these,
I love that term, gold bug.
One of these CEOs named Bill Green from Moscow, Idaho, he said, Michele, we're going to have a big mining conference up here in Spokane, Washington. And if you're willing to come up here, I'll introduce you to some people. I shouldn't do that, because he was a very elegant man. Actually, he was a professor at the university and ran a mining company. So I go up, he goes, bring a pile of business cards. And so I brought my business cards, and I go in this conference at this, the hotel in Spokane. I can't remember the name of it now, but 600 men and me. I'm the only woman except for the servers. And he walked me around, and he said, Michele, this is Paul. Shake his hand. Hi, Paul. Tell him who you are. Hi, I'm da-da. Tell him where you're from. Da-da-da. Tell him what you do. Okay. Ask him what he does. And he said, now give him a card and get his card. And he's saying this in front of the man.
Oh, wow. So
he's training me in real life, right? I think a lot of people would be offended by that, but I was grateful. I felt really honored that he was doing this. He took me around. I came home with a stack of business cards that you wouldn't believe. I met a gentleman in the elevator who became one of my biggest supporters for my 30-year career. All over, all over the world, and many other people. So Bill Green was one of those people that was key in my life in helping that start. And then it just grew from there. And, was it because I stood out and I was the only woman? Potentially. I had male colleagues who said to me, your advantage is you're a woman. Look at me. I got, 10 other guys that just graduated from their PhD like I did. Courses, and I got to compete with them when we all look alike. So I have to fight harder than you do. So you need to take advantage of it. So again, here's good advice from a male colleague who helps me recognize what those strengths are that I have that get me in the door. And of course, you have to show up and be intelligent and work hard and all those other things. But you know what? It paid off. I mean, I've had an amazing career.
Yes. Oh man, there's so many great takeaways from that story. I think one of the big ones for me is that you were willing to, you recognized that you were being trained in that moment, that you allowed the energy of that experience to unfold the way it was meant to, and got truly boots on the ground experience with how to talk to people of influence and how to present yourself professionally. When you look in the world today, and I know right now because of COVID and such, our in-person events have been either eliminated completely or restricted. We'll eventually get back to them. When you work with younger people, both men and women, what do you notice is missing from their abilities to do what you did? Or is anything missing? I'm curious. I think that in any age group or background, what I'm looking for when I'm working with a candidate is I'm looking for the leadership characteristics of courageousness. I'm looking for people who are passionate about something. So they've got more drive than just a buck. And when I say courageousness, leadership is not easy. You got to be a listener. You're not always going to be, not everyone's going to agree with you. Some people are going to tell you to stop doing what you're doing, so you got to have, you got to have the guts to go do it. And by doing that vetting, what happens is I attract people who have all those qualities. And if they don't, I don't work with them, but not everybody can be that, we definitely need followers as well as leaders. And my specialty really is working with the leaders. Mm-hmm. That is true. That I believe that we each have a responsibility to lead ourselves, and whether that means you then go on to be a leader of others, that's a different story, but it has to start with yourself. You have to at least take responsibility for your life, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Right. And the one other word that pops in my mind that I didn't mention is sacrifice.
Yes. Whew. What have you sacrificed?
I think a lot of time. I work a lot of hours, and I always have. I am kind of a workaholic, so it's not something I hate. So it's difficult to limit that and step away. I have to work really hard at, planning those days that are not in front of my computer or not on a plane or, whatever the case may be, and learning when to say no. So that I am protecting myself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think for people who love to work, and it's clear that you do, I understand that because I'm the same way. People in my life are constantly saying, it's okay to take a break. I know, but I love what I do. So, but yeah, setting those boundaries. And I love that you said, actually putting time on the calendar saying, this is when I'm going to not be working. I'm going to, whether you go somewhere else or you just shut things down for a few days and binge watch something on Netflix. I mean, whatever it is, right, that floats it gives you those recharged batteries, because we all need it, even people who love to work, you still need the breaks. So I'm glad you brought that word up, because it is a part of the leadership equation. Certainly you are going to have to sacrifice things that I also liked what you said earlier too, about there are going to be people who are going to tell you to stop doing what you're doing. And I've had so many conversations with folks who have encountered, whether you call them dream stealers or just curmudgeons who are miserable and they want to tear you down. Part of the leadership journey is recognizing that that's what they're doing and it has no reflection on what you're doing. But that takes practice like everything else. And sometimes, especially early in the journey, those people, there's that danger of getting knocked off the path for a little while and then realizing, well, wait a minute, that they're just unhappy or jealous or whatever the case may be. But I know what I'm doing. I'm getting back out there. And I can tell that that's you.
Yeah. Well, and that's where those strong mentors come into place. Because as when those kinds of things would happen to me, I had a handful of people that I could run to the phone and call and cry on their shoulder, or they'd come to my office and walk me around the block and, bring me down off the wall and give me reasonable and sensible advice. And so cool down, first of all.
Sure.
Cool down. Do not respond to that immediately. Be gracious in the face of that. That was my first thing. And then you go away and you figure it out. And you take care of yourself privately and you get good advice from people and rally your troops, circle those wagons, right? Get your huddle together and then get out there and call the next play if we're going to talk about it in terms of football.
That's right. That's right. Well, I would love for you to tell us about a time you're starting to get there when you found yourself playing out of position, Michele, when things did not go according to your game plan. You may have had all the X's and O's mapped out beautifully, thought you had it totally secured, and we're going to go out there and just win this thing. And you ended up being sacked, intercepted, or you fumbled the ball. What caused this to happen? And then how did you recover?
So I'm going to tell you this story, and it's going to be a little bit different probably than most of them that you hear, because, I'm very adept in the business world and how to deal with that. And I'm tooling along. And in 1998, my daughter, who was 18 years old at the time, was diagnosed with a rare type of bone cancer called Ewing sarcoma. She was a senior in high school. She just finished her senior obligations. It was like at the break, but she was super smart. And she died when she was 19 from the disease. And I had never had anyone in my family with cancer. Having a child with cancer, a grown child, is an incredibly stressful and unique situation to go through. She was my wild child and very much independent and that type of thing, but she was still a child. And so having that's one of those plays that you never count on in life.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So going through that as a single mom, by the way, I was raising my kids. I was a divorced mom for 14 years, raising my children. So having to cope with running my trade association and work, as well as taking care of her and going through that process, which was about 16 months, was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing a story that is tender and sad and very personal. Loss of any kind is never easy. And one thing I think I've read, now that I'm thinking back to your longer bio, correct me if or steer me here, didn't you create a foundation in her honor?
I did. Yeah. So because it's such a rare disease, she used to say to me, Mom, we were picked for a reason. So when she left the planet, she left me with the job here. I was like, really? You want me to find a cure for this cancer? You got to be kidding me. But as a successful business person, I was like, how tough can it be to raise $1 million for research, right? And so I formed a nonprofit, and guess what? Running a nonprofit is way different than running a for-profit, but I didn't know that at the time. But over 15 years, we did manage to raise, we raised more than $1 million because we gave $1 million away for research. And at the end of the 15 years at that point in time, we had 2 clinical trials that were going on at the same time in the United States. So the treatment protocol and outcomes for Ewing's have shifted from where they were when my daughter got it. It's a very aggressive disease. It's an orphan disease, like nobody cares kind of thing.
Huh.
Yeah. So we accomplished our goal, checked the box. And, now I actually have an extra, set of skills in nonprofits as well as in the, medical space because of going through that. But yeah, that's what that was the thing that I did that I became passionate about. Remember I said, I want people to lead with passion.
Yes.
And that's what I did. And I can tell you, and extend this story if you want to go along with this is, on the trade association, I had started it and ran it for 18 years. And I had a board member who took me aside when I was running the foundation, and he said, took me to lunch. This is what guys do. I'll take you to lunch. You go, okay, here we go. We're going to have the talk. Something's up. They're thinking about something, but that's how they do it. Because anyway, so we sit down and he goes, the foundation thing, you can't market that to any of the members of our group or, our directors, because everyone has their own, cause that they're, kind of thing. I was so hurt by that. I was so hurt. It was like a knife in my heart. And it was one of those things where, again, be gracious at the moment and then go away and make your plan. So my exit plan started the nanosecond after he said that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me a while. It wasn't something I did immediately, but, literally a few years later, and I'm doing the foundation. And guess what? There were still mining executives and people in the business who were super interested in writing big checks to our foundation and wanting to support me. And one of them said to me, Michele, if you leave the trade association, I'll support you in a big way. And I want you to start a new thing for profit. And I want you to do what you do. Because I was very famous for bringing money to projects, but do it for the oil and gas industry and so on and so forth. So I quit my job, started over in the basement of my house with a computer and a filing cabinet. And my first year revenues were over $2 million. I mean, wow. I kicked the field goal, baby.
You certainly did. Wow. That is a great story. And thank you for sharing that. It just goes to show that out of something that is dark can come something tremendously beautiful. And it sounds to me like you honored your daughter's wishes and have held her close to your heart all these years. It's amazing.
She'll always be in my heart. I never want to get over losing her. Ever.
No.
I never will. And I don't want to. So that's why I continue to talk about her.
Yes.
And she is always here,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
Well, as we look around the world right now, Michele, it is constantly changing. Last year certainly threw us all. Talk about fumbling and all the things that can go wrong in a game. I would like you to look into your crystal ball and make a couple of predictions. What do you think is going to have the greatest impact on how we continue to show up to work in life over the next 5 years, specifically around leadership?
That's a huge question. I've seen you know how adaptable we are. It's amazing how fast we adapted to things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in leadership, here's my vision, and it may or may not come true. I'm going for parity in the boardroom, right? This is where the biggest decisions are made. This is where all the coaches are. We're in the NFL and they're deciding, who's going to play, where they're going to play, all that kind of stuff, and who's going to get the money. And I want parity in that. I want parity in that room, because I believe that putting the complementary skills together, leadership skills of women and men, will give us an outcome that's going to benefit everybody, including the fans. Hey, fans, let's give you guys a little piece of the action like Green Bay does. All right. There's a flawed system here, so we're going to fix it. And guess what? The green grass is going to be, environmentally good. And there's so many things that will happen. So I think we're just going to keep moving in that direction. The other thing I think that's really going to happen is much more of an opening and acceptance of a normalcy. Let's call it a normalcy of women in leadership and Black people. I still see struggles for Asians and Hispanic or Mexican but there's definitely this door is wide open now for more Black leaders to step in and to get those roles too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I like your vision very much. I'm on board 100%. You said something about bringing the strengths of men and women leaders into the room. How do you distinguish between the differences in leadership? What do women bring to the table? What do men bring to the table? And then when they come together, what does that create?
Awesome question. Okay, so we're going to talk really generally on genders, right? So I look at the male gender, they're objective. They're amazing at, here's the goal. We're going to go get it, right? So we're going to get to the other end and we're going to score. And they don't care who they take out going for it. Okay. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Women are planners and organizers. And we're also, so men are objective, women are relational. So we have a relationship even with our coffee cup. If our husband went to the cupboard and took our coffee cup out we go, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm getting a cup of coffee. And you're like, that's my mug. They're like, it's a mug. Okay. So now we have this compassionate, empathetic attitude that comes in, and planning and organizing, right? So we do want to go to the same goal, and we want to take into consideration, maybe there's a strategy around doing that. Maybe we're not going to go just straight for it. How about if we take this, do this one, we do this one play where we go to the left and we take it out and we buy a little more time. How about if we go this way and da-da-da-da-da? And I know football guys do this anyway, but I'm just using these metaphors. Women have this other ability that then I think adds in this layer of succeeding. It might take a little longer, but including things and people and situations so that all the stakeholders are considered and can benefit and succeed along with the end goal. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your take on that, because it's a topic that I never get tired of talking about or hearing about. And I do believe that there are universal leadership skills. And I also believe that because of the universal law of gender, the male brings certain things to the world and the female brings certain things to the world. And then, of course, we're living in a time where there are people who identify as neither. And I almost want to elevate humanity to something where male, female don't even factor in, but we're not there yet. And that may be coming too in this century. Our children, our grandchildren may see that. I don't know. It's fascinating to me, though, how things continue to evolve and the conversations continue to happen. And that's something that you've made abundantly clear today, Michele, is you are passionate about having these detailed and thorough conversations around what's possible, what's missing, how can we fix this, how can we figure this out. And when we have our favorite team down on the field and we're cheering from our armchair, we're cheering from the stadium for them to drive that ball into the end zone. That's where I'm putting you now. So you are in the red zone, Michele. There are less than 30 seconds left on the clock. You are down by 4 points. It's third down. And so it is now or never. Tell us a story about a time when you ran that ball into the end zone for the game-winning touchdown.
You know, it has to be where I see myself on the stage in Dubai and I'm introducing Madeleine Albright. She was our keynote speaker. And that was a super pinnacle of my career. So that to me was, arms up, touchdown.
Wow. Well, give us a little bit more context. What were you doing there? What was she talking about? Oh, she's an icon.
I know, exactly. Well, as I mentioned, I had the support of this gentleman who said, if you leave, I'll support you. So I went out and did these investor conferences in Africa and in Dubai and in Europe. And so the Dubai conference was the first of its type that brought in mining company executives, and I matched them with investors in the Middle East. And so it was a huge thing. We had princes and sheikhs and people from all over the Middle East who were in attendance, and Madeleine Albright was our keynote speaker for the gala. And I haven't been in anything like that since, but sitting next to her at the head table across from the princes and the sheikhs and listening to her nail them to the wall was the most interesting thing I've ever heard. And such an example of how to stand up and, don't be shy. Like when you know stuff and you are smart and you do have that, you have to show up. You can't just be meek and mild. And it doesn't mean that you're being abrasive. It means that you're calling them out.
Yes. May I ask, what was she calling them out on?
Well, it was kind of one thing I remember was she was making the comment, well, isn't it interesting you guys had these mega malls, and I was walking around and I noticed the burqa shop is right next door to the lingerie shop. Now, how does that work?
So yeah, women's rights and
yeah. But she actually did a number of things on politics too, but I can't mention that. So
sure, of course, of course. We can all imagine. But thank you for sharing that because, again, I mean, she's definitely a champion for women's rights and also humanity. We all, at the end of the day, want to be able to live a life that makes us happy, that we can serve in some capacity, help others have a better life. And that's a noble quest.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, I think you nailed it. I have a little bit different definition and through my career, I've traveled around the world many times and been in many countries and cultures. And what I realized, I was in a hotel in Hong Kong and I looked out the window and I see all these people around here. I go, wow, here's the simplicity of it. Here's what people want. They want a roof over their head. They want food on the table. They want to be able to take care of their family and feel good about it and maybe be able to go on a vacation. Like, let's talk basics. If we can get everybody to that, we are winning the game.
Amen to that. I love it. Well, as we come to the end of this amazing conversation, Michele, I always ask each guest to share with Team PYP 1 to 3 key offensive strategies straight out of your leadership playbook that they could implement right away to make some forward progress in their work and or their life. What could you share with us?
My key thing is to clear the deck and sit down and have a think time. That's where I actually have the best kind of, next thing. And I do meditate every day. So that's a short thing, but a think time is different. It's going deep into a situation, a challenge, a potential idea or company that you want to put together. And I think we're so lacking that right now. When you think about, the stories I heard about Henry Ford, he used to spend time, what they call daydreaming all the time. And he said that was the best time of his workday because that's where he actually came up with the brilliant ideas. So we need, as leaders, we need to continue to make room for the brilliant ideas. And if we're just working all the time and engaged in social media and all these screens and all that kind of stuff, it's stealing that away from us. And as Americans, we really have to get our act. I almost cussed. We have to get our act together. Get our act together and get back to number one of being the best at coming up with ideas and solving problems. Mm-hmm. And we need time to think about it.
We do. And that comes with learning how to set boundaries and say no, and not pick up the phone anytime there's what I call that dead space in a day. I see it all the time when I'm out and about running errands or whatnot. People, I can't tell you how many people I see sitting in a car as whoever's driving or whoever was riding along has run into the store to get something. And what do? They have their head bowed in their phone. Mm-hmm. What a great place to have think time is in the car with no one else in it. Because you're away from your usual environment. I am curious, when you do your think time, Michele, do you have a ritual around that? Do you actively seek a place that is not familiar? Or do you have a place in your home, like your home office, where you can shut the door and just say, hey, I am do not disturb for the next 3 hours?
Yeah, I do find little nooks and corners in my house and closed doors so that I can be by myself. Mm-hmm. But if I'm in a really big, I need a really big think space. This is going to sound really, kind of corny. I go to the library, and I have my favorite spot in the university library because, universities are open to the public. And I've spent many a Sunday all day, morning through night there.
I love it. I can just picture. Which university are you closest to?
Well, I go to Regis University because that's where I got my undergrad. I didn't go to get my degree till I was like almost 50.
Wow, that's cool.
I was a pure entrepreneur. I've worked since I was 13, and I had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, let me show you what I can do without a degree. I mean, we look at this world. Bill Gates didn't finish college. Steve Jobs didn't finish college. Elizabeth Holmes didn't finish college. So, it's not that's what I looked at. I was like, wait a second, I'm going to want to waste my time studying. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to get my degree on the street. And I did. So when I went back to school, I did an adult thing. They said, you can test out of everything except 10 courses. So I tested out of the entire degree in finance and took the mandatory 10.
Why did you decide that you wanted to do that? Was it just, I'm curious. I love that you had that chip on your shoulder and said, watch me, I'm going to go do it. And you're absolutely right. Some of the greatest innovators and thinkers did not complete undergrad at the time that most young people do, 18 to 22. That's the time slot that, at least in this country, has been pinpointed as, you'll go to 4-year and come out with a degree. And instead, you at midlife decided to do that. So what was it that prompted you to say, I'm going to go do this?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have any relatives in your life who are kind of bossy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's what happened. My cousin was in the administration at the university, and she would not stop bothering me about, you should get your degree. You're so smart. You've done so much. You can test out. And she'd send me stuff, and she would not stop bugging me. I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to do it just so that you'll leave me alone. And then I was really glad I did. I had so much fun because it's nice to know, oh my gosh, I accomplished this when I graduated. I graduated magna cum laude, and I got into the Honor Society, and I won the Community Service Award. So I was on stage like 5 times. I was like, hey, you know what? Academics are okay. Because like in the business world, all I get is a bigger bump in money. I don't get nobody tells me I did a great job.
Wow. I love that story. And it may inspire some people who haven't either finished or never got one. That's great, Michele. Congrats. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Well, for people who would like to connect with you online, where do you hang out?
LinkedIn is my favorite place. So you can find me there. And it's Michele with 1 L, Michele. Ashby, ASHBY. And then, of course, my website is acellc.consulting. And I think it'll be in your show notes too, right?
It will be. I will put links to both your LinkedIn and your website. And I will say, I'm just going to put a plug in. Michele has an amazing DIY course there for women who want to learn a little bit more about what it takes to get on a board. I just signed up for that. I'm super excited to dive in. So in a future episode, team, I will report back to you about my experience. But I can tell you, you want to get in Michele's world. Connect with her on LinkedIn. Learn what she's doing. Guys, I'm sure you know some women who would be a great fit for helping Michele achieve her mission of getting 1,000 women on board. So connect with her, pick her brain, let her know what you loved about our conversation today. And, that's how we all move forward together is we answer the call to leadership and say, this is what I'm doing and let's go.
So I'm sorry to
go
interrupt.
ahead.
I have one more thing because I think we can't finish our game without getting the score, right?
That's right.
Okay, so we got 1,000 women to train. Guess where I'm at? I just got to the point where we have 400 women who've signed up for the online, which is the one you did, our primer series. And I have 91 women who've gone through my certification. And that's at almost 500. So I'm almost at the halfway mark to 1,000.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's huge. That is huge.
We have filled 43 corporate board seats so far. These are paying, compensated board seats with women who've gone through that certification program. We have 5 women who've become CEOs of companies, which I count too because CEOs make big decisions as well. And we have 2 companies that have been formed out of graduates who've gone through the certification program because they found each other and identified that they could build something together. So now they've got new companies coming.
That is, oh my gosh. That's the Super Bowl right there, my friend. And you're going to be a repeat because we're going to.
You got to bring me back when I hit 1,000.
I would love that.
Excited.
I seriously would love that. And I'm a fan. I'm a proponent. I'm on board. No pun intended with your mission, Michele. You really are a mover and shaker and a great example of what's possible when we make a decision about what it is we want, how we want to serve, and say, I'm showing up no matter what. I'm showing up. I'm playing the game.
Even when we don't have all the answers, ladies. Even when we don't have all the answers. It's okay.
It is absolutely okay. Well, before we say goodbye, Michele, please tell us who your team is. Who or what are you watching on Sunday?
The Denver Broncos, of course.
All right. Go Broncos. Love it. This has been so much fun. Thank you for taking time to share your leadership journey with us here at the Play Your Position podcast, Michele. I look forward to staying in touch and learning from you and watching you continue to win.
Well, thank you for having me as your guest. I've had so much fun. I love this, and I can't wait to come back and play another game with you.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Got a great key offensive strategy you like to share? Write to us at coach@pyppodcast.com or on Twitter, use hashtag PYP and let us know how you're running your ball into the end zone for those game-winning touchdowns.